Tom Brady made a federal case of Deflategate. Patriots quarterback and NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell today appearing in federal court as part of the appeal of Brady's 4-game suspension. ESPN reporting the NFL offered to cut a deal with Brady, meaning cutting the number of games he'd be suspended, if basically he accepted the findings of the Wells report, a mea culpa. But that would mean that Brady would agree he tried to cover up what happened. Now here's what Goodell says happened, and again a verbatim quote. Mr. Brady participated in a scheme to tamper with the game balls after they had been approved by the game officials, and Brady willfully obstructed the investigation. Talk about destroying that cell phone. But the NFL Players Association says the whole process, it's been flawed from jump because Goodell doesn't have the authority to be both judge, jury, and executioner. And that's why this thing has wound up now in federal court. Jimmy, it seemed from the reporting we've gotten that Mr. Brady had a sympathetic ear from the judge.
He did on both fronts. He's challenging not only the factual determination, and the judge basically put it to the NFL and said, what proof do you have and what facts were you relying on for your findings? And he ordered them to produce additional evidence that they were otherwise not obligated to produce. He also seemed rather sympathetic on the issue of the vagueness of the collective bargaining agreement, which basically that's part of the argument that Brady is making, that you're telling me I didn't cooperate, you have to tell me I didn't cooperate within the terms of the collective bargaining agreement, which doesn't really define cooperation. So he seemed to get a sympathetic ear both on the technical side and the factual side.
Doug, explain how it works. As I understood it, that when they went before the judge today, both sides, the judge basically telegraphed to everybody, I want you guys to make a deal here, get something worked out. So we were past the evidentiary phase here, and now we're at the negotiation phase. It seemed today that they were revisiting the facts, and they were revisiting who had the stronger hand, etc. And the guy on our screen here with the funny hat, he made it clear, if you're waiting for me to say I did it, hold your breath here, because I'll take my chances. So A, from the judge's perspective, what was he up to today? And B, can he force these guys to make an agreement, or is he going to have to be Solomon at the end of the day no matter what?
It's a classic settlement conference. So he basically calls the parties in. There's no, people aren't listening. And sometimes he plays the devil's advocate. He tells, hey, listen, the other side has a really good case. You better consider moving off your position. And he does that to both sides, usually. I don't know about this case, but that's usually the way it's done. He tries to tell them why they have problems and why the other side has a good case, gets them both to think about it, gets the lawyers to talk to their clients, and hopefully they can come to a settlement. It's like most settlements, nobody gets exactly what they want. They usually, if it's a settlement, both sides are, probably not the happiest people in the world, but the thing is resolved.
What hammer does he have to make, especially if you have one party who says, no way, I'm not giving. What hammer does he have to make him basically find some road in the middle?
The hammer he has is he's ultimately going to make the decision on the case. So if one side is being completely unreasonable, they know at the end of the day, if they push the judge can decide the case against them.
Now, what I haven't gotten, Bill, is that they're now debating what the power of Goodell is and isn't. Now, I'm not a giant fan of the commissioner. However, the players agreed in the collective bargaining agreement that he gets to be judge and jury here. Whether they like it or not, fair or not, that was part of the collective bargaining agreement. It seems that now they're relitigating whether he has the authority for something that both parties agreed to.
Yeah, well, therein lies the problem for Mr. Brady, because the players' union entered into a collective bargaining agreement, a contract, if you will, with the NFL. And basically the contract spells out the rights and obligations of the respective parties. Now, if the commissioner acted within the scope of the authority that the collective bargaining agreement gave him, then I don't think Brady has much of a chance of success before Judge Berman. Bear in mind that Judge Berman can rule however he wishes to rule, but either side that loses is going to appeal it to the Circuit Court of Appeals. And traditionally, courts are reluctant. They're loath to overturn or interfere with a collective bargaining agreement that has been negotiated by the union people and by the employer people. And so as a result, while Judge Berman may be shaking the stick, I think what he's trying to do is he's trying to encourage both sides to get together and work out some sort of a compromise. But to your point before, Brady has made it very clear he's not going to own up or admit to any wrongdoing.
So whether he cuts it to 2 games or 1 game, whatever else, the the NFL wants a pound of flesh here, Amy. They want Brady to say, I cheated. I knew I cheated. I was part of the plan here. I didn't just grab the football, at the championship game and all of a sudden, oh, it feels good, terrific. Those two guys didn't act independently. They got his guidance. If he doesn't fess up, is there any alternative you see where they can still cut the penalty and they walk away at the end of the day saying everybody won, everybody kind of lost?
Oh, sure. They can always negotiate to cut the penalty. But we've seen that push from the NFL from the very beginning when the person who was investigating this whole situation said in the ultimate memo that Brady more than likely not knew about it, that he possibly knew about it, but there was never any direct evidence. So we always got this feeling that Brady was kind of being punished for not cooperating. And they say he was obstructing, but you know what? This was not an active obstruction like you had with Alex Rodriguez, where he was paying people off to deny that he used drugs. This is him saying, I feel that, that the collective agreement is too vague in what it requires. And I'm not willing to give my text messages and email because I feel like that's an invasion of my privacy and it's not spelled out in the agreement. And he was not subpoenaed by a court to do so.
Then why destroy it?
Yeah,
why not just say, I'm not giving it to you?
But you know what? Why should you have to incriminate yourself? Listen, I'm a Jet fan who's had an awful week, as everybody knows. But why is it incumbent on Brady to self-indict himself if he didn't want to have turnover any of his stuff on the phone?
There are certain terms of contractual employment agreements where it's required.
But that wasn't spelled out.
And that's what he's saying. It wasn't adequately spelled out. But if you work for the NYPD and you don't submit to questioning in certain situations, you lose your job.
But Richard, you just said, why should he have to incriminate himself? And that's the issue. The issue is, why would he have destroyed the phone unless the phone had information that would have incriminated him?
Aren't you innocent until proven guilty?
Well, not in this case. It's not a court of law. I mean, basically, when you have this collective bargaining agreement thing.
If you look at the language of that Wells memo, it was definitive that here's a guy, he was participatory, scheme in the language they chose. I don't know.
There is a way out.
Too far as factual findings.
Maybe there was something in the phone that he didn't want people to see that had nothing to do with this.
But there is a way out.
I'm with you.
There is a way out. They can reduce the penalty by him just acknowledging that he destroyed the phone.
He'll never do that. Destroying the phone.
Destroying the phone, not admitting to the Deflategate.
All right. We want to get you involved in our conversations. Head over to Facebook and Twitter and answer our question. Brady versus Goodell. Should his 4-game suspension stick or be reduced? All right. When we come back, new information about that Walmart truck driver who slammed into a vehicle carrying the man you see right there on your screen, Tracy Morgan, seriously injuring the comedian and killing another man. We're going to look at the case and ask the table whether Walmart ought to be culpable for a sleep-deprived driver. Stay with us.